Hi, my name is Lena, welcome to my channel, and this is my final video for Sagalong2021. This time with some awesome booktubers, and I will leave the links to their channel below in the info box, and myself. We were reading Njal's Saga, and this is my thoughts and first impression on the last 39 chapters of the saga. This time it was extremely difficult to choose what to talk about, and I decided to talk about humor. How unexpected it was for me that there was so much very strange, very dark humor in it. Even in the way the cause and effect worked in this saga, all the things that kind of unexpected and they are not supposed to be funny, but they are kind of funny and nevertheless about the cause and effect. We know that Njal was a historical figure and he was known and he is remembered for introducing the fifth court, this supreme court in Iceland. But according to this saga, he did it not out of concern for the legal system and for the well-being of Icelanders and for the justice. He did it because so that his foster son, Hoskuld, could marry Hildigun. The lady wanted to marry a Godi, and no one was willing to sell their goddaughter to Hoskuld. So Njal had to steer the entire legal system of Iceland in such a way that more Godis would be needed, and one goddard would be given to Hoskuld. So that's why Iceland has this fifth court, because Hoskuld wanted to marry Hildigun. And about the way the cause and effect works in this saga, this new goddard, this Hoskuld becoming a Godi, caused Mord some losses. He lost some clients to this new goddard, to this new Godi, to Hoskuld. So I think things for Hoskuld became prosperous and the business for Mort was kind of in decline, and it angered his father. And they both devised this plan to turn the Njalsons and Hoskuld against each other. And we already know that it resulted in the death of Hoskuld, and in the end it will result in the burning of Njal. So the introducing of the fifth court actually caused the burning of Njal. And I think there was a lot of humor in the way fights were described, in the way, which are not supposed to be funny, right? In the way legal proceedings were described. I think the author was mocking legal proceedings and legal proceedings and legal pitfalls at the time. He took things in the court from ridiculous to plain absurd. I think he was mocking it. And the most memorable moment for me was when Kari's legal advisor, Thorhall, who was Asgrim's son, and he was enraged by the way things were going in the court and by his inability to be there because he had a festering wound in his leg. So he was enraged by it to such an extent that he grabbed his spear, ran it through his leg to perform some self-surgery, and then almost jogged to the place where the court was meeting. And I said, okay, what do you have in mind? What clever legal trick you're going to use to save the matters? And he just threw his spear through the first Flossie's relative he came across. And the whole thing burst fighting. So it did put an end to the legal hearing, and it did save some right people from a wrong sentence. It was very unexpected, and I kind of laughed out loud, but it wasn't supposed to be funny, right? So it's a very strange, very dark humor. And I think we talked a lot about how the beginning of the saga was driven by female characters, but this last fourth part was driven entirely by male characters, and two of them impressed me greatly. They are Flossie and Carrie. I had read in the introduction to the Penguin Classics edition how Flossie was reluctant to burn Njal in his house, how he was sorry that he had to do it. In my opinion, I have read all the bits. In my opinion, he was as much sorry to burn the Njal in his house as Caesar was to cross the Rubicon. Right? It served his purpose, and it was done. He had his chances to not to do it, you know. It served his purpose, and it was done, no matter what he says. It seems to me that Flossie didn't realize what he was getting himself into. I think this killing of Hoskult was as much a horrible deed as the burning of Njal later would be for the Icelanders. This uncalled for killing of an unarmed good man by his foster family, by his foster brothers. So I think it was a horrible, terrible event, and it caused quite a turmoil. And we know that Hoskul's widow, Flossie's niece, demanded blood revenge. She didn't want any settlement. And many people wanted blood revenge. They wanted Hoskul to be avenged. But many people, and Flossie's father-in-law among them, wanted things settled as soon as possible. So Flossie had to respect his father-in-law's wishes and to agree to this huge settlement, thrice the amount usually paid for such kind of slaying. So he had to agree to it, but he didn't want to settle. And so at first opportunity, he insults Njal, this old, much respected man who had nothing to do with the killing itself. And Scarf-Fedin, the Njal's eldest son, insults Flossie back, and the deal is off. Flossie, I think, didn't realize what was coming. He misjudged the scope of the things he started. He wanted the blood revenge, and he thought that if he killed all the Njal sons, he would be safe. As though they didn't have an army of cousins, as though they weren't related through marriage to some prominent chieftains, as though half of the Icelanders weren't indebted to Njal for his help in legal matters. So he misjudged the situation, in my opinion. So Flossie and his supporters, they swore an oath, a terrible oath, that they will see things through, that they will kill all of the Njal sons. And whoever forfeited this oath would lose his life and his property. So it was such terrible oath. And when presented with a chance, they could leave and not to do the burning and to face retaliation from the Njal sons afterwards. They could do it. It was a choice. But they decided to kill all the Njal sons way beforehand. And so they choose to do the burning. They choose to burn the Njal sons in their house. So And of course, Flossie says that it's not good. He calls it a great responsibility before God because we are a Christian man. So maybe I'm not familiar with the concept of responsibility well enough, but it seems to me to be an inadequate word for such a deed, for the burning of 25 fighting men, some 25 fighting men, and a woman and a child alive in a house. I wouldn't call it a responsibility before God. So anyway, we know that Flossie allows children and women to leave the burning house. But nevertheless, one child dies, and Berthora, Njal's wife, she decided to stay with her husband and with her sons. So Kari, Njal's son-in-law, when all things are lost, when all the fighting is done, he manages to escape from the burning house through the burning roof in such a way that makes me think that he is no longer the handsome guy we knew. And he becomes obsessed with the revenge. The Njalsons and himself, they had sworn that whoever lives avenges the fallen. And Kari primarily escapes to avenge his father-in-law and his brothers-in-law. And just by evil luck, Scarp Fedding, the Njal's eldest son, who was following right behind Kari, didn't make it. And Kari still was called a coward for escaping from the burning house and not staying there with his brothers-in-law and with his father-in-law. So Kari escapes and he's obsessed with revenge, and a big party forms around him. But first they decide to take it through legal systems. They decide to wait to all thing and to bring lawsuits against Flossie and his men for burning the Njalsons and the Njal in the house. And they want the sentence of outlawry. They don't want any compensation. They want outlawry for people who did the deed. And maybe, if they're lucky, they want blood revenge. Mort has to lead the prosecution. It wasn't his idea. He's not happy about it, but he couldn't wiggle his way out of it. So he has to lead the prosecution. Both parties, Flossie's men and Kari's men, are going around fully armed in this whole thing. And so when legal system fails Kari, and he and Asgrim faces outlawry themselves, being innocent, they face outlawry. So when this happens, blood battle ensues, and so all thing is fighting. Now, with plenty of people dead and with Hoskult avenged, Flossie wants to settle, but Kari won't hear anything about it. And so Kari was like a madman. He went all in. He acted like a person who has nothing to lose, and who had nothing to lose. And I didn't realize that it all was all about honor once again. I thought, oh, poor man, he must have lost his entire family in this fire, right? And then no, he still had a wife and some 4 daughters living. But apparently neither girls don't count in this saga. So knowing this saga after the burning, I read about Kari meeting his wife Helga, Njalsdottir, and talking with her and about her praising him for his doggedness in avenging her parents and her brothers and their son, or trying gently to persuade him to let things be, because after all the people who did the burning were exiled from Iceland, some for life, some for several years, but they were exiled. But no, next thing we hear about Helga, about Kari's wife, after realizing that she was alive. We hear that she died so that Kari could marry someone else. The moral of the story, girls, don't be nice. So, this fourth part of the saga was a strange reading experience. I read through graphic post-mortem after the burnings, post-mortem on the burnings. I read through the trial, which was ridiculous to the point of being absurd. I read through some battle who had nothing to do with the story apart from the fact that 15 of Flossie's exiled men died there in this battle. And I read about Flossie and Kari each going on pilgrimage to Rome and receiving absolution from the Pope and settling their blood feud with a kiss, and I'm sorry. So that was a very strange reading experience. And I would really love to know what Flossie told Hildegund, Hoskuld's widow, to make her marry Kari. You remember this girl, right? This girl was a very high opinion of herself, and she knew what she wanted, and she was very strong-willed. And do you remember how she almost refused Hoskuld because he was at a Godi? She didn't want to marry below the Goddard or whatever. So now she marries Kari. And Kari, in my opinion, is broke. He's absolutely broke. All his lands are in trust for his daughters because he going on this killing spree. And in case of him being outlawed, he didn't want anybody to be able to take his property. And so he put it in trust for his family, for his daughters and his wife. So he doesn't have any land. And he had a ship and some cargo, but he crushed it and he lost this cargo. So in my opinion, he doesn't have two coins to rub together, and she marries him. But it's not why I find it difficult to believe in such marriage. Hildegard demanded blood revenge for killing Hoskuld, and Kari was one of the men who killed Hoskuld. So she basically demanded Kari to be killed, and now she marries him. And I think it would have been an interesting marriage to read more about. You know, maybe not unhappy, maybe not a happy one, but interesting. The only thing I regret in this saga is that we don't know what happened to Helgard, or Heliard. I think the right pronunciation is Heliard, and her uncle Hrut, and they were very prominent figures, very important characters, in this saga. This saga is packed with characters. Anyway, they were important, and we know nothing about them. And because of this strong Christian theme in the end, it kind of makes me think this strong Christian theme and the way Haliard was, that she was this unreasonable evil witch type of character. It makes me think that maybe she was there just to, bite the apple and to pass it on. I might be wrong, of course. I have been wrong about plenty of things in this saga. Do you remember me telling that it must have been, it has to be about the land, and I was wrong? It was not. It wasn't about the land. Apparently, it's just a custom to take the property of a person who was outlawed and to divide it between the persecutor and between some in has. Apparently, it was a custom, so it wasn't about the land. I was wrong. And that's why I like these read-alongs. I like these discussions because many times my co-hosts showed me things and events in this saga from such a different angle that would have never occurred to me. And I think it helped me to understand the saga better. I think it helped me to accumulate some background knowledge that will be useful for our next Sagalong. I enjoyed reading this Njal saga very much, and I hope that the next saga we read will be as complex, as interesting, and as entertaining as the Njal saga was. Thank you for watching, goodbye, and happy reading!